Hello, here with Dermot Williams from Threatscope. Dermot, how are you?
Hey, great.
Also Web Summit coming out for you.
It's been really interesting. It's been a lot of walking, a lot of talking, and an awful lot of interesting technology and interesting people. I've really enjoyed seeing everything from electric cars to quantum computers to startup companies. It's an amazing energy.
I know you're in the security business. Tell us, what does Threatscope does?
Well, we're a reseller, an advisor, a consultant. We go into large enterprise-type companies and we assist them in making sure that their security systems are right, that their endpoint computers, their networks, their cloud storage, anything that they're doing with business-critical data, we assist them in making sure that's secure from outside influence, from being attacked, from being stolen, from being interfered with.
Tell us about the kind of threats that businesses are facing. What's happening?
Well, there's been an enormous range of things going on, everything from network breaches to ransomware to even simple things like business email compromise, which is less technical but unusually effective in many cases because people can rely on a simple email to accept as an instruction to maybe transfer money to a supposed fictitious supplier, and suddenly thousands or millions of dollars go to the wrong place and attackers disappear and are never seen again.
It seems like that's a social engineering problem more than a technical one.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's been an election recently in the United States and there's a lot of talk about fake news, and everybody seems to understand that they don't necessarily trust everything they see on some social media anymore. But then they go back into their work the next day and they receive an email on the computer and they believe it.
And they blindly trust an email.
Which is very scary because faking an email is not that difficult. In fact, it's very easy to do. Tracing who the person in a particular business might be who's responsible for finance because of social networks and LinkedIn and Google again, very easy to do. So if you can find out who handles the finance and you know how to create a fake email, suddenly it's very easy to attempt to defraud that person or that company by just sending a well-crafted piece of social engineering.
What are businesses doing to cope with that kind of threat?
Well, in that particular type of threat, a lot of it comes down to making sure that your people are well informed to recognize this type of an attack, and that your processes are very rigidly enforced. And you must tell people that not only is this your process, but that they must follow it, because one of the examples where attackers try and fool people is to pretend to be the chief executive. And they'll send an email saying, hey, I'm the CEO of your company, and I insist that you do this right now. No, there's no time. I'm the boss. You do what I tell you. So you actually must go to your people in finance and tell them, hey, look at me, I'm your CEO, and I'm telling you, I will never do that. If you receive an email from somebody telling you to breach the security protocol and to not do the normal checks that you must do, you must not obey it. You must empower them to follow the rules and understand that you will never ask them to bend the rules, because that's how attackers try and social engineer the people.
Who do you think are being targeted in security, who have security breaches? Do you think it's in Europe, United States, or is a more global kind of thing today?
Really, the attackers, and there apparently seems to be so many of them out there, they're looking for every type of target they can find. And while they may go after a very large, well-resourced company because they believe that they have a lot of intellectual property or a lot of cash that they want to target, they're also going after some software targets, some Eastern European or some Asian or some South American country. We had an example last year with the Bank of Bangladesh, and you mightn't have thought of Bangladesh as being an obvious or major target for attackers, but somebody figured out that they have a lot of money because they have a central bank, and a central bank of any nation is going to be able to move tens or hundreds of millions of dollars around. And there's an international network called SWIFT which connects banks together, and they use that to send wire requests and actually literally move money. So while everybody gets excited about Bitcoin and blockchain and instant transfers of money, money has been moving electronically for years because that's how banks communicate with each other. If you can get into those core systems that banks use to request money to be transferred, you can make real large amounts of money move. And in their case, they lost tens of millions of dollars and came whisper close only because of one typing mistake on a list of instructions, only because somebody stopped to verify whether that mistake was correct and then found out that the entire list was fake. There was $1 billion of transfers which would have been made to the attackers, and that money would never have been seen again.
What do you think are the biggest challenges that companies are facing today in terms of security? Besides email?
Outside of the whole technology, you have the velocity issue, which is things are moving so quickly and you need to keep abreast, you need to keep your security up to date, and you need to keep patched against the latest vulnerabilities. But probably the single biggest challenge we hear from our customers is the skills gap. Finding people who have the right level of knowledge and expertise to be able to cope with all this, understand it and deal with it, the security problem is growing faster than the pool of experienced people to deal with the security problem has been growing. And that's a challenge a lot of companies are facing. They will have dozens of unfilled positions in some cases in large organizations, but they just can't find the people that they need.
Dermot, you're an entrepreneur yourself. Do you have a good piece of advice you could share with young entrepreneurs?
If they're going to create a security product, one of the first things we say to them is make sure that you're meeting an untapped universal need. If you come to somebody like us who is in the business of supplying technology to companies and you say, hey, this is something really cool for insurance businesses or for pharmaceutical businesses, I'll say, yeah, you know what, I'm not so interested. But if you come to me and say, hey, this is a piece of technology that will help every single business out there, small and large, no matter what industry, to do better security, then I'm going to be excited, because you know what, you have a 100 times larger market opportunity if you meet a universal need.
You could just start and I'll edit out.
Okay. Now, we've been talking earlier about how people have learned that fake news is something they shouldn't rely on, but unfortunately it keeps moving on, and the attackers can be very, very of the moment when it comes to using breaking stories to try and fool people. We had an example a few years ago where sadly Michael Jackson passed away. Within 10 minutes of the news breaking, the first fake emails were going out saying to people, hey, here's a link to a video you can click on to see a video of Michael Jackson's body being wheeled out to the ambulance. And of course it was totally fake, and if you clicked on it, it tried to infect you with malware. But somebody somewhere an attacker was that quick that they thought, wow, people's guard will be down. So you have to be vigilant all the time. We had the elections in the United States, and people again were told not to be careful about fake news and whatever, but in a week or two they'll forget about it again and they'll start lowering their guard. You have to be constantly vigilant, because there'll always be some new way in which an attacker will try and fool you.
How big do you think a company needs to be in order to need those extra security measures?
Oh, if you have money in the bank, you need to be secure. And if you're any type of business, you probably have money in the bank. You will be amazed how small organizations can be and still get targeted. One of the problems is that often the people attacking you don't know who you are, don't know how big you are until they get inside. And once they've gone to the trouble of getting inside, they're going to take what they can find.
Perfect. Dermot, thank you very much for this interview. Thank you.